through the Bible 2017, 2018, class number 3. Okay, so first of all, tonight's class is in memory of Harvey Ashman, Dr. Harvey Ashman, who's actually yahrzeit is tonight. So his dear friend, the dad, that passed away actually last year. So this is first yahrzeit, and we're commemorating him, in memory of his class. In memory of him, this class is tonight. Okay, so we talked about. Now, this also is between. I hope you all had a good Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is coming up. So at the end of the class, we're going to do a little exercise for Yom Kippur. I think that will help us kind of get a focus on for Yom Kippur. Okay, first we'll start off with Chumash. So last week we ended up talking about the idea of the Torah, right? That the purpose of why God created the world. Remember, we said the whole purpose that God created the world is to be a giver. God is a giver. He wants to give, and therefore He created the world so that He can give to us. Right? That is why He went there and He created the world. We also talked about that the world. How old is the world? We said the world is. We just said 5,778 years. We said that goes to the counting of man, right? And really, man only Rosh Hashanah, right, which is Rosh Hashanah is the birthday of the world, right? That is man. That's when man was created. So it's really 5,778 years plus 6 days, right? Plus 6 days. And we talked about that. How do you have 6 days, right? How do you have 6 days when on the first day? And I think this is where we left off. That what did God create on day one? Right, God created the heaven and earth, light and dark, right? Light and dark, and created, right, day one, day two. And the question we had was, well, how do you have day and night, right? Where does the light come from on day one? Right, remember we talked about? So somebody said, well, it must be from the sun. We said the only problem is, if you take a look on day 4, right, God says He creates the sun and the moon on day 4. So therefore the sun certainly was not around on day 1, it only gets created on day 4. Which leaves us a big problem. Then how do you get light and dark, and how do you have a day and night? And worse than that is, how do you have a day when the technical definition of a day is the revolution of the earth vis-a-vis the sun, right? Wherever you are on the earth, when that turns towards the sun, that's sun up. When it turns away, that's sun down. Right? And so therefore your sundown happens, right? Your sundown happens where you are, and that's a day, right? Problem is, there's no sun. So how do you even have a day, right? And so we talked about that, right? According to the Kabbalah, right, in Jewish mysticism, right, it mentions that the world is 14 billion years old. 14 billion years old. Why do then we say the world is 5,778 years old? Because creation of man. Because really the whole world is created for the purpose of man. Right, that we are the purpose of the creation of the world, and since we are the purpose of the creation of the world, if it doesn't make a difference what other people go ahead and do.
Who is we?
What?
Who is we?
We are the creation, human beings.
Human beings?
Human beings, right? It starts off as human beings, and you notice eventually becomes the Jewish people, right, have accepted the responsibility of the world. Right, we'll get to that, right? But that's what we're going to. We then become. Right, we take on the responsibility of the world, right? Because the world, we'll see what happened. That the world kind of went ahead and went downhill, and so therefore we accepted the responsibility, and so therefore it's for the sake of the Jewish people. Yes.
There was sun or was not sun on the first day?
The sun does not show up until day 4.
Oh, so there was no sun.
No sun on day 1.
So where the light came from?
Oh. Where does the light come from? Excellent question.
You said something.
I don't know. I didn't tell you where it came from. I'll tell you my answer where I think the light came from on day 1. Certainly not from the sun. The reason we know that is because the sun.
No answer for it.
What?
No answer for it.
I'll tell you. I'll give you an answer. I'll give you an answer. Hold on. I'll give you an answer where it comes from. Okay? But clearly it was not the sun. That's one thing we do know, right? Yeah. So therefore, so let's.
I want to understand the Bible.
Yeah.
Who wrote all of this? God wrote all of this?
God wrote the Torah. The Torah that we have is a word-by-word dictation from God to Moses. Right. Just the first 5 books of the Torah is a word-by-word dictation from God to Moses. The prophets, the prophets are the book of Joshua, Judges, Samuel, Kings, right, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and the 12 prophets, those were all written down by prophets, which means that God gave a prophet a prophecy, and when the prophecy left that prophet, sometime later the prophet sat down and wrote down the book in his own words. And that's why when you look in the prophets, each book sort of has their way of talking. Okay? The Torah, right, the first 5 books of Moses, are a word-by-word dictation from God to Moses. So Moses was actually sitting down. Moses was the scribe, and God dictated to Moses word by word. He said, write the word Bereishis. Moshe wrote the word Bereishis. He wrote the word Barak. He wrote the word Barak, right? And so he wrote every word, right, exactly dictated by God, which means, right, in that case, that every single word has infinite meaning, right? There's infinite meaning to the words of the Torah, right? Because each word is chosen by God. Okay, so therefore, now the question is: so what did God mean, right? But clearly, one thing comes out of this is that don't read the Torah like a 2-year-old, right? Meaning that we go ahead and we say, oh, well, look at that, the word God said there were 6 days, and then right 6 days, and we know the word's 14 billion years old. There's no sun till day 4. Right, that's clearly, right? We see, right, you turn to, I think, verse 14. Right, it's chapter 1, verse 14, when God says he creates the big luminaries.
A lot of contradiction, you know.
And well, very good. So
you agree that the world was created 14 billion years.
Okay, so I'm going to...
You don't object.
I don't object it, right. The Torah doesn't object to it.
And you believe that 14 years the world was without sun?
No.
Not because of the light. Because the sun makes a balance.
No. The sun gets created on day 4. Right, somewhere in that 14 billion years. And I'll tell you something fascinating, because I tell you there's actually a few different ways to understand it. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to fight you on any of these ways to understand it. Okay? I'm just going to tell you what it is, right? But I'm not going to fight you on any of this stuff. So, you can either say God created the world 14 billion years. It took 14 billion years, he created the world. Right now, again, why God has to wait 14 billion years when there's no people on this earth, etc. That's a good question. I think the question begs an answer. I don't have an answer for you, but you can say that. And then we only start counting from 5,778 and 5 days, right? Today's the 5th day of Tishrei, right? Because that was when man was created. Another way is God created a world that was 14 billion, that looked 14 billion years old, and God created it in a split second. Right? That's also a possibility, right? And again, and clearly God created an old world, because even if you want to say that it was regular 6 days, and then Adam and Eve, if you would have gone to the Garden of Eden on day 1 and chopped down the proverbial cherry tree, right? How many rings would have been inside the trunk of that tree? None. Right? So God created an old world. Right? So the answer is there were lots of rings. But we know it was the first day. So where did all those rings come from? The answer is God created an old world. Right? If you dug down into the ground and found rotting vegetation, right? To say, well, Rabbi, look, it's not day 1, it's not day 6. Right? These trees the tree itself is right, that's rotting in the ground. What would we say? Well, we know it's day 1. The answer is he created an old world. So therefore, all these things that seem to go ahead and to show us have no problems. He said, and the third way to look at that is as follows. Is that, we said, if you take a balloon, a deflated balloon, and you put 2 dots an inch apart from each other, and then you go ahead and you blow up the balloon, how far are the dots from each other? Far. No longer an inch. So if I was to ask you, how far are the dots from each other, what would you answer to me? More than an inch, right? Okay, so you say 5 inches, 10 inches, whatever it is, right? And I'd say, no, but I know they're an inch. Who's right, me or you? Who's right?
Both right.
Both right. Aha, we're both right. Okay, so if we're both right now, and here comes the problem, right? So if you take a look, the universe is expanding. Okay, it's doubling in size, and it's doubled probably a million times. Okay, if you go ahead and you take 14 billion years old, and you kind of just keep on having it a million times, and take 14 billion years, what do you end up with?
Bigger universe.
Actually, you end up 6 days. Okay, the universe is expanding today.
You mean it gets bigger?
It's getting bigger, yeah. The universe is expanding, at least as far as science can tell. Okay, the universe is getting expanded, right? The universe is expanding, right? So therefore, right, the world, right, started off as, right, so now, if I ask you how big is the universe, the answer is, well, it depends. Are you looking from the beginning of the universe looking forward, or are you looking from the end of the universe looking back? Which side of the balloon are you on? Okay, are you on the end of the balloon where we are here, or you're the beginning of the balloon that started? So clearly God is at the beginning of the balloon, right? Because God is...
Been hanging around Dr. Schroeder.
right. So if you take a look back, Dr. Schroeder, right, this I heard from Dr. Schroeder, right? He's written a few books, Genesis and the Big Bang. If anyone who wants to look into this more, Genesis and the Big Bang, and he's written a few other books after that. The science.
He lectures every day at Asia Torah in Jerusalem.
Right, in Jerusalem. Right. He's written the science of God. He's written a couple other books that you might want to just go and take a look if you want to go further into this subject. So if you were to ask me, so what is it? The answer is I could say all of them are fine. I have absolutely no issue. You want to take any one of those positions? Go right ahead. I'm not fighting you on that because they're all legitimate answers to the question. Right? They're all legitimate answers, and again, right? What does the Torah exactly mean? I don't know. I'm not a big enough Torah scholar, and I'm not a big enough scientist to answer those questions. Actually, tell you since you mentioned Dr. Schroeder, I'll tell you a funny story that happened with him. It's just a good idea to understand. We had brought him down here to speak in Dallas. We brought him a bunch of times, and one time he was heading from down here, and he was going down to the University of Texas, UT in Austin, and he was going to debate a famous atheist on campus, a Dr. Weinberg. Because only Jews are famous atheists. Okay, and what happens is he goes ahead, and he was going down to Austin to debate. And what happened was, I said to him, I said, what are you going to tell this Dr. Weinberg? What are you going to do? He says, well, very simple. He says, I'm going to use his numbers on how he says the universe was created, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to show him how what he says is written in the Torah. So he says, Bentzi, listen up very carefully. He says, if you ever have a contradiction between Torah and science, it's either because you don't know your science, or you don't know your Torah, or you don't know either. He says he's a big physicist. What is it? Astrophysicist? I don't know. Am I right? And so what?
He was on the Manhattan Project or associated with
the Manhattan Project. Okay, so right, he's a pretty established fellow, and so he knows his stuff. He knows his science. He didn't know his Torah, right? But when finally he was open-minded enough to study and learn some Torah, at that point in time, then he was able to figure out everything else, right? So therefore, so he goes ahead, and you have. Right, you go ahead and so therefore there should never be a contradiction between Torah and science. Okay, if you think there's a contradiction between Torah and science, right, so then either you don't know your Torah, you don't know your science, or both. As well as I'd like to just say just something interesting just about science, just important just to know, is that science is a moving target. Okay, meaning that we're constantly learning new things. Right, and the example I like to use is what science says about eating an egg after you had a heart attack. Okay, so like 75 years ago, they said after you had a heart attack, you should eat an egg a day. 50 years ago, they said, oh no, don't eat an egg a day. You can eat an egg a day, you're going to need to go back, and you're going to have to figure this out, is that you go ahead and you don't eat an egg a day, because that will kill you, right? Eat like maybe an egg a week. And then around 15 years ago, science said, okay, you know what? Eggs really aren't that bad. And kind of, you could cut back on you could go back to eating eggs. So I told somebody, so let's say, for argument's sake, the Talmud was to say, was to say, you should eat an egg a day after you have a heart attack. So 100 years ago, we would have said, oh, the Talmud's true. 50 years ago, you would have taken a black pen and you would have blacklined that line in the Talmud. I said 20 years ago, you would have tried to kind of like get rid of the black ink that you put over the black ink because now it's true again, right? So again, so it's something that keeps on moving, and so therefore also you have to recognize that as opposed to the Torah, which is God's truth. So, and remember, the Torah is telling us how God created the world. Science looks at the world and says, looking back, right? Looking at the world, how can we understand how it has happened, right? So really, there should not be a contradiction. There should not be any contradiction between Torah and science, right? And really, it's a question just of understanding it and of learning one or both, right? To get what to understand. Okay, so good. So now we have. So where did the light come from? So we always say, let's read the book. Okay. So I want to. When we started last week learning, and I'm going to teach you now an incredible Ramban. Ramban is Nachmanides. Nachmanides was one of the great medieval commentators who lived around the 1200s. Okay, I think 1204, if I'm not mistaken. That was the Ramban, otherwise known as Nachmanides. Okay, right? There's Maimonides, which I think most of you have heard of. Maimonides was a great sage called Nachmanides, very, very famous Jewish sage. Okay, and again, when we come to the Torah, right, normally, right, we follow, as I tell people, we follow right behind Rashi. Okay, Rashi was probably the greatest medieval Jewish sage to ever live. Okay, Maimonides was most famous. Can't say greatest, but he was the one probably the most important to us today. If you go, you take a look at right, basically any part of the Torah, Rashi has a commentary on it. You read the Talmud, the first commentary, right, the first and foremost commentary is Rashi again. Okay, Rashi he's the one who takes our hand and sort of walks us through, right, the Torah, through the prophets, and so therefore we like going ahead and we like following Rashi and kind of just like marching right behind Rashi is where we like to go. Okay, so if there's a disagreement between we follow Rashi. Well, okay. But now I'd like to teach you the following idea, which is just an amazing idea. Chapter 1, verse number. We'll start from verse 1 because it's really verse 2 that I'm interested in. But we're on page 3. Page 3. You know why the Torah doesn't start on page 1? You know why the Talmud always starts on page 2? It starts on page 2 because when you finish the book, don't say you finished it because you never read page 1. So you have to go back. So you have to go back now when you have to continue reading the rest of it. Okay, right? So don't get caught up. Right? It's going back. It's page, right? There's no page 1. So page 2 in the Hebrew, page 3 in English. Chapter 1, verse number 1. Okay, chapter 1, verse 1. Jenny, you want to read?
The beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty, with darkness upon the surface of the deep, and the divine presence covered upon the surface of the waters. Okay, fine, good. Right, okay, so last time we talked about this book over here. Last time we talked about it last time we talked about it was in the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, right? This is all a preposition, right? This is the Torah is right, the beginning of God's creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was astonishingly empty and darkness hovered upon the face of the earth, and God said, "Let there be light," right? And so really the first thing we hear about is God saying, "Let there be light." Okay, now, right? That's what we said. But now this is very interesting. In the beginning of God creating the heavens and the earth, when the earth was exceedingly empty. Now, in the Hebrew, it says v'ha'aretz, and the earth, hayasa, was tohu vavohu. Okay, Art Scroll translates tohu vavohu. They translate it as astonishingly empty. Every English translation that you look at and you ask them, what does the word tohu vavohu mean? They will give you a different explanation. Void and desolate, right? Empty and desolate, empty and void and empty. They'll give you all sorts of different explanations. Nachmanides says one of the most greatest ideas that I'd love to share with you. V'ha'aretz, he says, in the earth, hayasa was tohu, a mustard-sized seed of matter. So tohu means a mustard-sized seed of matter. Vavohu is a compound word. Vavo, in it, who was everything. Let me repeat for you, my friends. Nachmanides says,
And the earth was a mustard-sized seed of matter that had the entire universe inside of it.
So tiny, so small, right?
Why do they call it the earth then?
Okay, what?
Why do they call it the earth?
Well, it's saying the earth, meaning haaretz, means the land. Whatever we live in now used to be a mustard-sized seed of matter that the entire universe was compressed inside of it.
How come?
How come God created with a mustard-sized seed of matter?
So when they say the earth, they're not talking about like the scientific planet.
Right. That's right. It means the entire universe, right, the galaxy, whatever it is.
God, okay. That's
Was all compressed. That's what Nachmanides says. And then verse number 3. And God said, let there be light. Guess what that was when God said, let there be light?
Big Bang.
The Big Bang.
So something like
Right. And what happens when you have the Big Bang? The universe explodes, you have lots of light. And I'd like to point out something too, by the way, just parenthetically, on the scientific side. The Big Bang is really, what the Big Bang says is that there's a black hole where the entire universe, all matter is kind of sucked into this tiny little point. It's called the black hole because not even light can escape from there. Does science have anything that can escape from a black hole? No.
Don't even know what's in it.
Right. There's only one thing that can escape from a black hole according to science. An infinite, no, not light, because that's you only see it because there's no light. It's an infinite energy source.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That science says the only thing that can come out of a black hole is an infinite energy source. Isn't that cute? We said if we had to describe God, what would we describe God as? An infinite energy source. So science says there's a Big Bang that we know nothing could come out of except an infinite energy source.
So here's a Big Bang.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's a nice description.
But
I don't want again to repeat on what we spoke before, but we are still here on 5,717.
from the creation of man.
Yes, but that is also the time here.
No. This happened 6 days before. This is on day one.
There's 6 days before.
Six.
Okay.
Right. 6 times. 6.
Five. What is
57,
6
77
days?
years
You're
plus 6
comparing
days.
5,700.
No, but when we say
Nothing
6.
6 days. So every time we say, so the days is not on the dimension.
Very good. Excellent. That's exactly. Absolutely. That's
So
exactly what
maybe
it is.
6 days, if the rest 14
Billion years, sure. Yes, right. Absolutely. But now let me tell you the problem with Nachmanides. By the way, you want to hear my most religious experience I've ever had? Like really like the coolest experience I ever had. Like I had to lie down after I had this. And okay, if you remember, there used to be a newspaper called U.S. News and World Report. It's funny because when the publisher of U.S. News and World Report actually is a Jewish fellow, not religious. But when he's going to get to heaven, he's going to get they're going to present with him an incredible reward, and they're going to say like why am I getting this? He says because you wrote an article once that Bentzi Epstein saw, and listen to what the article said. They used to go ahead and they used to have like a 1-page article on the science of the day. Okay, and so this took place. The science of the day, right? This took place was I think in late 1990s. Okay, when they first started getting the first pictures, of the from the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay, and if you remember that, remember when Hubble, right? Some of you don't. Okay, right? Hubble Space Telescope. Okay, when they launched it, right? The first they spent I don't know $100 million, $200 million on the Hubble Space Telescope, but first they got unclear pictures. Right? Do you remember why they were blurry? You remember why they were blurry? They were blurry because they were using inches and centimeters interchangeably. So anyway, so they got the fix on the Hubble Space Telescope. Eventually, they got it. Okay, right? So what happens is that they put a picture in the newspaper. Okay, right? I mean, it's a 1-page article. Pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope. And the picture, Okay, this picture like one of the star formation, and it says a picture of the beginning of the universe when the universe was a mustard-sized seed of matter. Bam! They were quoting Nachmanides, word for word. It blew my mind. My head was buzzing. I had to go lie down.
Did you take any aspirin?
No. I was reeling. Like my head was just reeling what was going on.
Did they know that about Nachmanides?
I really don't think those people study Nachmanides.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. No. It was not Rabbi so and so that was writing it. Just a choice of words that matched up exactly to what Nachmanides said. Now there's a problem with what Nachmanides said. A big problem. He was living, right? Nachmanides, right? Actually, if you take a look in the back of your Chumashim, it actually has not a bibliography, but it has an appendix where it goes. It has the different sages, and it has actually when they lived. Okay, so Nachmanides, right? If you take a look, right? Nachmanides is right. So his name really was Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. Okay, that's his name, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, right? Who was known as the Ramban. Okay, the Ramban lived 1194 to 1270. Okay, 1194 to 1270. He was born in Girona, Spain. Okay, 1194 to 1270. Does anyone know what the scientists were saying in year 1194?
The earth was flat.
The earth was flat. Good. That's also because they forgot to read Proverbs. They forgot to read Psalms. You know that.
They didn't
The
have
Earth
the
was the
science
center
for
of the
it.
universe.
No, but so it's interesting, right? Because, by the way, just interesting, right? What does Psalm say about the earth? The earth, it says it's like Ishon Eno, it's the pupil of God's eyes, which is kind of round. So anyway, alrighty. But anyway, so right, they said the earth was flat, and what else besides the earth was flat?
It's the center of the universe.
And it always existed. Scientists in the 1200s and 1300s and 1400s, maybe 1500s, 1600s, I forgot when the science finally got around that there was a beginning to the universe. Not that there was a beginning and there was a beginning, right? But the universe, right? And so how does Nachmanides know? How does Nachmanides know that the world had a beginning? That's what this means. The world, right? Mustard-sized seed of matter, from there the whole world came about. There was no Dr. Schroeder then. So how did Nachmanides know that? Prophecy stopped 1,300 years, 1,500 years before Maimonides was born. So where does he know it from? Good news is, he had a good rabbi. And how did his rabbi know about it? He had a good rabbi too. And how did his rabbi know about it? He also had a good rabbi. And who was his good rabbi? Also a good rabbi. All the way back.
There's a cumulative cleverness that concentrated inside.
Right, and the scientists weren't clever enough. It was only the rabbis that were clever enough to figure this out. Going back to Moses on Mount Sinai. Right, it was transmitted down.
10 generations.
Actually, Nachmanides is probably 50 generations from Moses.
50?
50. Yeah, maybe even 60 generations. 70? We're here 70? Okay, there was 40 generations from Moses to the year 500. So it's another 700 years. So probably another 14. Right, okay, it's probably 55. Roughly. I'm giving you just a rough number. You want to have in my office actually a chart of the chain of transmission all the way from Moses till today. Just parenthetically, if you're interested in it, kind of marking each generation like who to who to who to who. Nachmanides goes ahead and Nachmanides writes this down. There's no way, right? The science is not anywhere any helpful. But his rabbi taught it to his rabbi, taught it to his rabbi, taught it to his rabbi, all the way down to today. Right? It goes all the way down to today. Right? The key is, and it's always about, getting a good rabbi. Make sure you get a good rabbi. Right? So the Nachmani says, in the world was tohu, vavohu. Tohu was the mustard size seed of matter. Little point of energy. Vavohu. In it was everything. Darkness was on the face of the earth, right? And what happens is, right, darkness on the face of the earth, right, and the Spirit of God, right, is hovering over the Spirit, over the face of the water.
So what's the Jewish perspective on what was before the beginning?
Before the beginning of the world.
Before there was, yeah. Right?
Okay,
the
excellent.
The beginning implies that there was something to be separated.
Excellent. Okay, so it goes like this. The world, right, God went ahead and God created the world. Okay? Before he created the world, what was there? Nothing. There's only one thing that existed. What existed before the world? God. What didn't exist? Everything else. And again, time, remember, time is a creation. Okay, so that means time gets created a few nanoseconds after the Big Bang.
So time is a creation?
Yeah, sure.
And before it was created, there was no time?
Correct. That's a science fact.
You can...
I'll get...
What is this no time?
I will go ahead. I'll tell you a great story about this. It happened with my uncle. I'll tell you about my uncle. See, my uncle's a smart one in the family. My father's pretty smart. My uncle graduated summa cum laude from Harvard in 1952 when they still had quotas on Jews in Harvard. He became the senior scientist in ITT, defense company that's 100,000 people. He was the senior scientist. He just retired recently when he hit 80. I think they wouldn't let him to continue or whatever. So they came to him with the following problem. It's an amazing problem. You remember the Tomahawk missiles back in the early 90s? Mm-hmm. Okay. So they had a problem. Is that the Tomahawk missiles, right, they couldn't get down to the last foot. They could shoot it across the world. They could put it wherever they wanted it to land, but they couldn't get that last foot. Okay, they knew they could get it within this foot, but they couldn't get it over here. It might go over here or it might go over here. And it wasn't good enough. So they came to my uncle, the scientists came to my uncle with that problem. And my uncle told them, it took him a while. And until that he just gave him the answer like this. Right? He was probably studying Nachman and somewhere else in the Torah. Okay. But anyway, so he goes ahead and he says the following. He said to them, he said, you realize when the world goes ahead, he says, we're shooting this missile, and how are we guiding this missile? He says we're bouncing off signals from the satellites. He says, and so the speed that we're bouncing it off, right? Because of that speed, we're losing a second or a nanosecond of time. He says, and so therefore there's a time hitch. And so we can't get that last foot. So instead, they gave it another way, but I think they used triangulation to get the last foot. Okay, right? But they couldn't get it using he said, because the time they were bouncing it off. And they did an experiment, right? You know, scientists did, right? Scientists did an experiment on this. They took a bunch of atomic clocks, they put half of them on the ground, and they put half of them on airplanes. And they flew the airplanes around, the airplanes flew, and then they brought all the clocks back together again, and the airplanes on the clock were slower than the atomic clocks on the ground. Right? Time is a creation, that's science. That's not Torah, I'm telling you that's science. Time is a creation. Time gets created after the Big Bang.
So I don't know this, but I'm just curious, is the scientific perspective on what was before the Big Bang also described as just nothingness?
And the scientists say they have absolutely no clue.
They have, okay.
They have no clue, right?
No
Again, even
way to understand what was before.
What was before the Big Bang?
Before
They can't even get you after the Big Bang. They can only, because after the Big Bang, the few nanoseconds, I don't know how long, but there was the
Right.
universe.
It only gets you within like very very close.
Right, 0.00001 or whatever,
Zero.
not zero,
Yeah.
right? Because the universe functioned under different terms,
Yeah.
and so therefore they have no way of understanding how the universe functioned. So therefore, they had to go ahead and they have to, right? Their functionality of how the universe functioned, right?
So if you want to understand what was before the beginning, you have to accept the spiritual perspective, which is it was just nothing. It was God.
Well, you have to accept, right, God's version of the story,
Right.
right? And again, right? What was there? But I think God has pretty much credibility. So, I would again, if God and scientists, you know where I go. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm here to find out.
Right. So therefore, so that's why. So the nanosecond. So time is the creation. So therefore, before there's time, and this is a little hard to wrap your mind about. And Maimonides writes about this. He says, if there's no time, there's no such thing as before. Before and after only work for us human beings. Okay, right? Again, the example I use is like this. Okay, I use my water bottle here. It's very important. Okay, here is our world. Okay, this is our world. Here's the Big Bang. We are somewhere over here, right inside the world. Time starts here, which means over here, where God is, right? Where God is, right? Where God is, there is no time. Which means, people say, well, who created God? Right? What's the Jewish answer to who created God? The Jewish answer is that's a silly question. Why? Because time starts over here. God is over here. Right? So therefore, outside of time, there is no such thing as before. Right? You following? So the only answer is God exists and nothing else exists.
And has always existed.
And that's why it always existed, because again, you can only say when did he start is when you have time. But God is above time. So therefore for God it's all now. Right? That's crazy. You think about it, like that's just wild. Right? So what happens? So God exists, nothing else does. Period. So the first thing in the Kabbalah talks about that when God created the world, what's the first thing God had to do? He had to sort of clear space for the world. And the Kabbalah talks about Simpson, right? He had to create a space for the world. And so then what did he do? Then he goes ahead and he creates this mustard-sized seed of matter. And he goes, let there be light. And now it goes, by the way, you want to hear something really cool? This is a funny, cute little fact. You know what the word abracadabra?
Oh yeah, something about Bereishis.
Yeah? Yeah, right? Abracadabra, poof, right? Magician, why do you use abracadabra? You know the word abracadabra is an Aramaic word that says abra kedabra. I will create when I speak. How did God bring the world into existence? 10 speeches. So they say abracadabra is abracadabra. Yeah, go ahead.
So how come man age is not longer than today's time?
How come man is what?
Age is not longer than today's time.
What do you mean?
The average age for human time is about 800 years old.
The average age of a human what?
It's about 800 years old during Noah's time, right?
I'm not following. The average age.
About human in general, it's 800 years old, isn't it?
Oh, at the beginning of the world. Yeah.
But why?
Why us? So very good. So God created originally Adam to live 1,000 years because it says 1,000 years man is like one day in God, right? And so therefore, so God gave him one day. And then what happened was when mankind began to abuse the time that was given to them,
What did they abuse?
instead of using the time to get right, why are we here in this world? Not everybody at once, folks. This is the most important question you're ever going to ask yourself. Why are we here?
To serve Hashem and
Right, to create a relationship with God, right?
Right.
And so what happens if instead of using that time to create a relationship to God, we're busy doing other things?
But Rabbi,
Like watching Monday Night Football, right? Okay, right? You know, what are we doing other things?
Rabbi, human have the right to eat, to work, to farm, to
For what purpose?
survive.
No, why are they surviving? Are we like animals that we eat today, so I could go to sleep and wake up tomorrow and eat again? So I could go to sleep and eat again? Are we just animals?
But the purpose of the humankind is incarnation.
No. The purpose of humankind is to build a relationship in this world. The only reason we are here in this world is to create a relationship with God. If you use your time for anything else, you're actually stealing from God. You're taking what He gave you and you're misusing what He gave you. It's not a good thing to do. In general, certainly not the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
So if Adam had to study every single day, 24 hours a day, Hashem would provide with food?
Absolutely, that's exactly what He did. In fact, how do you know that's exactly the story? I'll prove it to you. God put man in the garden to do what? Puts man in the garden to guard it and to keep it, right? Let me ask you a question. What do you mean to keep it? First of all, who's He guarding it from? And to keep it, the garden was perfect. There's no such things as weeds and thistles and thorns and any of that stuff. So what was His job in the garden?
Protected?
No, from who? He said work in the ground, right? The answer is la'avda. His job in the garden, and the Talmud says, what does it mean la'avoda? What does avoda? What does work mean? Real work means prayer. God put man in the garden to pray to God. And He provided him with all his earthly needs. And He gave him 2 butlers to take care of all his other stuff.
So he had nothing to worry about.
Exactly. Only he had one thing to worry about. His relationship with God. That's exactly what happened.
So why He gave him woman?
Because he wasn't perfect till he got her. Why? Listen to this. It's very important. What?
Because he had no one to give to.
Very good. And why does he need somebody to give to?
Because God gives to Adam, so Adam needs to give.
Okay. Come on, knock it out of the ballpark.
Be like God.
Very good. Because God is a giver. So if we would be by ourselves, what would happen is we would be self-centered.
But God knew if He gave more human, we will mess up this world.
God knows everything. We'll get to that. You jump into chapter 2. But understand the purpose of marriage is to stop being a taker and to learn for you to be a giver. That's exactly why God created a woman. And that's exactly why you have to be married. Because if you're not married, then you're just a taker. Because who fills up your box? Who fills up the center of your universe? You! And guess what that makes you?
Taker.
One. Right. Selfish. Thank you. One. I had some other words. One selfish. Right. Only you, human being. And what does that make you? Disgusting. Makes you odious to be around. Because when it's all about you, and you can't think about anybody else, you're very unpleasant to be about. So God says, I'm going to create you, and I'm going to create you your other half. And your job is to go find your other half. Why? To give to them. That's why I love it when somebody comes into my office and says, Rabbi, I want to get married. I say, fantastic. What are you ready to give? And they say, give? I said, well, why do you want to get married? They said, well, the other person makes me feel so good, and I'm like so amazing when they're around me, and it's just fantastic. Yada, yada, you, they go ahead and, whatever. Right? We're going, oh, it's fantastic, right? And I tell to them, I said, so you're getting married because it makes you better. They said, right, Rabbi. I said, so now you're becoming an even bigger taker than you were before. Before you only taken from yourself, now you're taking from your wife. I said, you know how long your marriage is going to last? And it's all about you taking. I said, your marriage will last around 3.2 seconds. You'll get divorced 2 years because you'd be embarrassed to get divorced right away. Right? I said, what's the purpose of marriage? To be a giver. So that's why I asked you. So what are you ready to give? Right? What are you ready to give? When you're ready to give something and understand that that's what marriage is about. It's about giving, not about taking. Then guess what? Then you become a great man. Then you become a great woman.
So why is it so hard to become a great man or a great woman and be a giver and not a taker?
The answer is the sin in the garden. You see, what happens is, okay, I mean, you want me to teach you the whole Torah on 1 foot? I'll give you the answer just because, I don't want you to have to live in agony for 3 months till we get there.
I can stand out on your floor, but it might get a little smelly.
Okay, So repeat your question. Question is,
Why is it so hard to be a giver and not a taker?
okay, and the answer is because we identify with our body rather than with our soul. And that actually was the problem. Once we ate from the tree, we flipped on our mind, and instead of associating ourselves with our soul, we associate ourselves with our body. Okay, I mean, this actually is a good Yom Kippur little side tangent. So bear with me. Everyone, pick up your hand. Put your finger up. Point to yourself. Make sure you know where you're pointing, because I'm going to ask you where you're pointing. So point to yourself. Are you your hand? Maybe your arm? Maybe your leg? Maybe your head? Maybe your stomach? Maybe your heart? Point to yourself. Okay, good. So let's start off with what you're not. Are you your hand? How do we know you're not your hand? Because if you get your hand lopped off, do you become a different person? No. Next, people point to their heart. Okay? You're your heart. What's the problem with being your heart?
You're a transplant.
And you get a heart transplant, you become a different person. No. So are you your heart? No. Okay, good. Good, okay, good, excellent. Justin, you work this through. So therefore you must be your brain, which is what you pointed to, right? Okay, so you're your brain. But I'm going to tell you a little problem with that. The problem is one day you're going to walk into the office and you're going to get a petri dish and you're going to deposit 3 million cells into the petri dish. And you're going to come back in a few months and it's going to be the new birth. Rabbi Epstein, running there on the treadmill, just like really like the muscles bulging behind the ears. You know what I'm saying? Remember those guys? Remember those days? Those were the good days, right? Okay. And what happens is, right, as you're busy, right, and then you're gonna go ahead and they're gonna come in for your appointment. They'll probably have to wheel me in by then, right? And they'll go ahead and they'll take 2 little alligator clips, clip them onto my 2 nice little ears, and then they're gonna go ahead and they're going to. Those machines are going to go into the machine, and there's going to be the new buff, Bentzi Epstein, 2 alligator clips on his ears. They're going to press a button, and swoosh, all my thoughts and feelings are going to go from this body to the new body. Who is the real Bentzi Epstein? The old body or the new body?
You haven't established that you need to do that.
I'm listening in science fiction
Body
times.
is the point.
It's very good. I'm living in science fiction times. They're getting there. Don't worry about it. 20 years. It'll be maybe 30 years. The answer is, but it's not about your body. It's about your soul. And what we call your thoughts and feelings, you know what we call your thoughts and feelings in Hebrew? Neshama, that's your soul. So when you point to your brain, you're not your brain either. Everything physical about you is the hardware. The software running the system is what we call the soul. Okay? And so you're not your body, you're nothing physical, you're your soul. You're the software. Okay, what we call, in Hebrew, we call your neshama.
Your thoughts and feelings are your soul.
Oh, your soul. And your soul is where your soul is encoded. Your body, your brain is just the computer that's running it. Okay? Which means that your soul is running on. Okay? Which means quite fascinating. As long as you try to make your body happy. So then who are you? You are your soul. Okay, now let me explain it to you in a simple way. Tell me if the statement is true. You are full and I have a soul. The statement's true or false?
What do you mean by full?
I just ate supper. I'm full. I am full. And I have a soul.
Sure.
2 true statements. Okay, who thinks they're true? Raise your hand. All right, come on, guys. Commit. Don't worry about it. Who thinks they're false? Raise your hand. Who's not sure? Raise their hand. Some people didn't vote. I know that. Okay, you guys, okay. Listen up. Okay. Both those statements are false. I am not full. My body is full. I don't have a soul. I am a soul. But we talk, again, let me say, I am full. Who's the I? Me, my body. But it's not me. The me is my soul. So it's not I am full, my body is full. And I don't have a soul, I am a soul. You following? We live our lives like I am full. When we use the word I, we refer to my body. And that's why we have so many problems. Because we're busy trying to make our bodies happy rather than our souls happy. You following? You can't be happy unless you make your soul happy. That's why running after all the physical pleasures in the world will not make you happy. Now you understand why. Right? right? Nothing, right? Understand, you can't make yourself happy by making your physical body happy.
What is the food for the soul then?
Food for the soul.
You know what, Rabbi?
And Rabbi Epstein's Torah class. Come on. The answer is Torah and mitzvos.
Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
What is happiness?
Shall I tell you what happiness is? You are happy.
Are you more happy than I am?
Oh, I am drunk on happiness. Okay? No, I really am. I really am. I've got like, it's the most amazing thing in the world. Actually, it's fascinating. You want to? I'll tell you. Where do you see happiness? What holiday is called the holiday of happiness? No. No. Go ahead. Sukkot. And what's the culmination of it? Sukkot. Right? Okay. That's Simchat Torah. You know why Sukkot is called the holiday of happiness?
Beginning of Torah.
Close. Good. It's called the holiday of happiness because we just finished Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we're still sinless. And so our relationship with God is like this.
But
Yeah.
I went to meet with the next day after Rosh Hashanah. I did
You sinned already.
you sin already.
I know. Good luck. I can't help you. No. The answer is...
I'm human.
So I'm going to explain to you something very, very important. There is nothing wrong with sinning. Don't take me out of context here, folks. Listen, there is nothing wrong with sinning. God has angels that are perfect. He created human beings and knowing that they're going to sin. Okay? So don't beat yourself up that you sin. But what do you do after you sin? Tshuva. You go back and return to
So
God.
he knew Adam was going to sin.
Of course he does. He knows everything. In fact, they would make the argument, going back to my little world here, right? Is this all is happening with God? For us, it's happening yesterday, today, tomorrow. But God is over here. He's above time. So how's it happening for God?
All at the same time.
All at the same time. Yeah, so he does. Because you know why? Because somebody who sins and does teshuvah is greater than somebody that has never sinned.
So keep praying.
So keep coming to class. Right? Okay? Right? Okay, listen to that statement. I say that statement again. Somebody who sins and comes and does teshuvah and comes back to God is greater than somebody who has never sinned. So I had a guy come over to me and says, Rabbi, so I'm going to sin just so I could do tshuva. I said, don't worry about it. You've sinned so much already. You have plenty to do tshuva. No. So I said to them, I said, you can't do that. And why can't you do that? By the way, who did that? Who did that? That was Adam's sin. Adam's sin. He said, because if I sin and come back to God, it's even greater.
It is sin.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to all this stuff, right? But again, there's nothing wrong with sinning. People make a mistake. When you sin, your job is to clean up the mess. When your dog poops in public, what's your job? Clean it up.
Hope nobody saw.
Right? Hope nobody saw. Right? Right? But the world is all about cleaning up the mess that we leave behind. Right? As we go through the world. Right, as we go through the world, right, our job, we know we leave behind mess, but that's okay. We're humans. We're not perfect. We weren't created to be perfect. We're created to be striving to become great people. You want to hear something amazing? How many legs does an angel have?
One.
One. How many legs does a human have? Why does human being have two legs and the angel has only one?
Angels don't move.
Angels don't move. Right? Angels don't move. Because the way they are created is the way they exist. They exist on the same exact level that they were created, is the same exact level that they finish on. Human beings, we get created in level A, and our job is to walk and to get higher and higher and closer to God. That's our job. Right? Our job is to become closer to God and become greater to God. That's why we're angels, and that's our job, right? To strive to become godly. That's our job. That's why we're here. And there's only one way to know how to become godly.
So what's the point of incarnation?
That's a great question. That's a fascinating question. Because even reincarnation, I'll ask you even a better question: reincarnation. Before a person's soul is reincarnated, where is the soul?
With God.
With God. So why does he want to come back down to this world?
He doesn't.
It's a long story, but that's for a class of reincarnation. But understand, there are lots of problems, right? Or let me ask you even a better question. Before you were born, where were you?
Your soul exists.
That is you. Thank you. Right? So where were you?
Don't know.
Right? The answer is your soul was in the world of souls. Your soul was with God. So why do you even want to come down to this world?
It's a big mistake.
Aha! So why do you ever want to be born?
It's not your
Well, I don't have
choice.
any
You don't
choice.
want
In fact, you absolutely do have a choice. Talmud says before everyone is created, God goes ahead and God takes the soul. And he shows the soul the entire world, his entire life. And the soul gets to change whatever the soul wants to change. You know
Do I
that?
have a choice up there?
Absolutely, of course. God doesn't do anything against you. Well, God loves you.
Become a millionaire if I wanted to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So why did you become a millionaire?
Do more sins.
No, very good. It would have been bad for you. So that's why you're not a millionaire. That's the bottom line. Being a millionaire is not simple at all. Right? It's a tough job. It's a responsibility. When you don't have any money, it's no big deal. You don't have a problem what to do with your money. When you start getting more money, you have a problem. What are you supposed to do with it? What's the right thing to do with it? How much charity do I give? Who do I give the charity to? I just not give to anybody. Or people my friends because I have money, people's friends because of who I am. Rich people do not have a happy life. They're usually most miserable people in this world. Money does not make you happy; it makes you miserable. It's only one thing that makes you happy. Going back to happiness. Guess what it is? Monday night, 7:30, Breakneck.
Torah class.
Torah. I'll prove it to you. You want me to prove it to you? When you walk out of class, how do you feel?
Elevated.
Elevated, happy. Feels great. Because you learned Torah. You fed your soul. Right? You fed your soul. It's amazing. Just take a look. You do mitzvahs. You feel good.
So what happens when I pass on?
What? When you pass on? Oh, so what happens? So then your soul returns to the world of souls with a rap sheet. Okay, now that's the problem. With your report card. Thank you, Rabbi. Report card is a better word. With your report card. Right? And then you're coming home to daddy, and you got to explain why you got C's and D's and... Right? I don't know about you. If I got a C in my report card, it wasn't worth going home. A D?
And according to that, then the soul is returned to redeem themselves.
Okay. And it's a lot of stuff going on. What we can and what we can't do. It's
These are all very nice and beautiful ideas, but how do we know all this?
Yeah, I made it all up. It sounds good, doesn't it?
That's
No, the answer is like this. I know nothing. But the good news is I read a little Talmud, which is the oral law.
So it comes from the town.
Oh, all this stuff is from the Talmud. Yeah, no, these are fundamental questions. Right? I mean, again, right? Moses spoke to God. And Moses wasn't curious. Right? It means
The Talmud comes from God.
the Talmud comes from God. It was passed down
5
orally.
books of Moses comes from God,
Word by word dictation from God to Moses.
and then the Talmud.
And the Talmud is the explanation. Listen, Moses sat in class, and God taught him the Torah. Did Moses not say, hey God, we just like come from day 1 when the sun's not created till day 4? Was Moses at least as intelligent as us? Never mind, you didn't think of this question before. But right, okay, was Moses at least as intelligent as us now? Did Moses not ask God this question? Of course he did. Right? Moses was a smart fellow. So what did God tell Moses? How did Nachmanides know this? The scientists said the world was flat and always existed. You understand? You're getting into problems over here. Now I'm going to teach you something amazing. Do you know what happens when you say in the Shemona Esrei? The second blessing in the Shemona Esrei is something so amazing. Listen to what you say. Right? We go ahead and we say, is that, it goes ahead and it says as follows. Right? God, you are, right? We thank God. You are for the strength that you have, that you go ahead and you have all these things. Okay? And there are 4 things we praise God for in the second blessing of the Shemona Esrei. We bless God because He gives rain to the world. We bless God because He gives livelihood to the world. We bless God because He revives the dead. And we bless God that He brings children into this world. By the way, you want to see a real cool mnemonic? Like super cool? Yeah? Just you want it just for the heck of it?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you don't want it, I'm happy to move on. I know it. Okay. Listen to this.
I just want to say something for you.
Yeah.
When the scientists in the 1100 years ago,
1100s. 1200s.
when they said that the earth was flat and so on, it shows that they had no vision actually, because they didn't see the whole world anyways.
It's a long story. They were very smart. The scientists were not stupid people. They knew all about the sun. They knew about the moon. They were astronomers. They were not stupid people. But I don't want to discuss science. This is a Torah class, so let's just get there. So I said, anyone know how you say key in Hebrew? Mafteach. Okay, Rabbi, there are 4 keys that God holds on to. Okay, the Hebrew word for key is mafteach. Okay, right. So it's mem, pei, taf, ches. That spells mafteach. Correct, Tippy? Am I correct? Okay, we got a Hebrew speaker. You can check on me to make sure I'm not pulling a fast one on you. Mafteach. The first letter, mem, matar. Anyone knows what matar is? Rain. Pei. What does pei stand for? Parnasa. Right? Livelihood. Taf stands for Tchias HaMesim. Right? Tchias HaMesim.
What does that mean?
Revival of the dead. Revival of the dead. And Ches stands for Chaya. What's Chaya? Childbirth. Childbirth. My friends, you know why a key is called a key? Because there are 4 keys that God holds on to. Matar, rain, pei, parnasa, livelihood, test, chias amesim, revival of the dead, chaya, childbirth. That's why a key is called the key. Revival. So very good. Where does chias amesim belong? Listen to me carefully. Yeah, sure. No. Tchias HaMesim is revival of the dead. That's going to happen after Mashiach, right? But listen to this. So these 4 things that we thank God in the second blessing of the Shemona Esrei. Okay, but I'm going to ask you now the following question. We say in the second blessing of the Shemona Esrei, okay? Ata Gibor Le'olam Hashem Mechayim Meisim Ata Rav L'Hoshia Mashav Ruach M'Moreh Gashem, right? Mechalka Chayim B'Chesed Mechayim Meisim Rachamim Rabim Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, right? You heal the sick, Matir Asirim, right? You unbound the chain, Mekayim Emunas L'Sheni Afar, and you keep your right? Your emunah, your steadfastness with those that sleep in the dust. Mi chamocha, who is like your Baal Gevuros, right? Wonder, right? Owner, right? The Baal Gevur, the strength. Umi damalach, and who is comparable to you? Melech, the king. Meimis umechaya. What is Meimis umechaya? Meimis who kills, umechaya who brings to life. Can I see? What's the problem with this? Melech, Meimis, umechaya. You're the God, you're king who kills and who brings to life. What's the problem with this verse? It's backwards. Oh, Mati, very good. It's backwards. What should it say? Melech mechaye umeimis. God, you're the one who brings to life, and you die and you kill people. Why is it Melech meimis umechaye? You're a king who puts to death and who brings to life. Good question. I'd like to suggest the following answer. Okay, Mati, you have any brains left? I'm going to splatter the rest of them on the world over here.
No, the same that's
מחיי מתים is תחיית המתים, it means הנשמה.
No, so that's
If a person is dying.
right. So that's one simple explanation. That's one. I would like to suggest the following idea. What is life and what is death? Real life and real death. Not how we use it. What is real life and what is real death? I would tell you, life is connecting to God, and death is disconnecting from God. I would think in the simplest explanation, that's what life is called, and that's what death is. Okay? And therefore, we say, Melech Meimis, you're the king who puts to death, i.e., who sends us down to this world, umechaya, and you bring to life. When we die, you bring us back. Okay, you're the king who dies and who brings us to life. You see, the whole world is really upside down and backwards. What you see is not what's really true, and what you don't see is really true.
We're not really alive until we're dead.
Well, we're saying alive means connecting to God. When do we really connect to God? When do we have that utmost connection to God?
You're saying after we die.
Why? Because we don't have a body, we don't have the physical body to interrupt that connection to God. Right? There's only a certain amount we can get down here, but at the end of the day, we're still physical. It's only when we pass on, right, that then we can then attach to God in the utmost way. Right? So therefore, Melech, you're the king. Meimis, you put to death, how? By putting us down into this world. Umechai, you bring to life. See, this whole world is upside down and backwards. Right? In fact, you know what the Hebrew word for world is? Olam. You know what the word olam means? It comes from the word ha'elam, hidden. This world is called olam hazeh, hidden here. Okay? Yeah, Hebrew's pretty cool sometimes. It's amazing. The more you know, the more amazing it is. It's hidden here. What's hidden here? Everything is upside down and backwards. Who does the world worship? Right? Performers, football players, right? Right? Those are our heroes. That's the world's heroes. Do you think anything upside down and backwards more than that? Do you want to go to a class tonight and learn with the rabbi? Oh no, shoot me now. Right? You want to go watch the football game? Oh, I'm there. You want to go to the concert, the Kiss concert? Where I'm there. Right? Everything. Oh, sign me up. Right? You look at the world. Just look at the world. The world is so upside down and backwards. And I'll show you how upside down and backwards. You know how God reminds you that the world is upside down and backwards? You want to hear the greatest, coolest thing? Just super cool? Let me get to your question. No, Okay. So you want to hear the greatest, coolest thing in the entire world? Listen to this. I look at you. How do you appear in my eyes? How? Like a mirror. You're upside down and backwards. Right? You know that, right? You're being projected onto the back of my eyes, upside down and backwards. Right? And then your brain has to straighten you up right side up and put you right side up. Some people are sick, they don't have that. Right? And so they go ahead and they're upside down and backwards. They're toast, right? It's crazy, right? They can't see anything, right? Right? You know that there's sickness like that. So now listen to this. Why does God make it so complicated? Why can't God just make it that I see you the way you are? Why does God have to make it that you have to be upside down and backwards, and then my brain straightens you up? Right? Good question. Right? You like the question? It's a good question.
I have another.
Right? I have a, so listen to my answer. We'll get to your answer. Hold on. Okay. That's the answer. The answer is because God is telling you the whole world is upside down and backwards. And your job is to turn it right side up and see it the right way. Is to look at the world and to make sure you're seeing it the right way. Right? To turn it right side up and make sure you're seeing what you're seeing. That's the whole purpose of the world, and God wants to remind you that. So He says, great, I'm going to give you two eyes. That the way they see is everything is upside down and backwards, and you got to use your brains to turn it right side up and to make sure you're seeing what you're seeing. Right? Do you understand how that is? That right? You got that? It's amazing. Okay?
I want to ask
Okay, one second.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not easy to learn Torah. Thank you for what you're doing, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But when I leave this classroom and I got to go back to work and deal with my ideas as not being as religious as you are,
Mm-hmm.
and Gentiles that are out there
Mhm.
not knowing anything that even close to
Right.
what I'm even learning now.
Right.
If I see it, if I don't see it the way the reality is, I'm
Mhm.
bound to get hurt, and the world the way it is. You're wanting me to see it in a certain way through eyes of
I'm trying to teach you.
It's just sort of a struggle
Okay.
to live on this
No,
planet.
no, good. Okay, good. So let me help you
I
out.
hope I'm not.
No.
You answered most of it.
No. Okay, good. So let me tell you
Football and all that. Yeah.
something. Okay. So let me tell you how to look at it. I'm trying to teach you how not to get bogged down in all that other stuff, and don't let that other stuff control who you are and what happens to you. You need to do that. That's your job. Right? Most people in this room, right? Most people have a profession where we're dealing with people, right? With regular people. You're not dealing always with Jews, not with religious Jews. Right? You're dealing with people, and that's part of your job. And there's nothing wrong with that. If that's how you're making a livelihood, fantastic. But understand, there's a greater goal than what you're dealing with. Right? Don't let yourself be sucked into that. Right? And to say that that's my life. That's not your life. God, Torah, mitzvahs, that's your life. Right? What you do is for eternal livelihood, it's great. Don't let yourself get sucked into that. Okay, that's really what I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you another perspective on it so that you can walk out and, and it's not always as peachy as you'd like it to be. Right? And sometimes people aren't as nice as you'd like them to be. That's okay. Don't worry about it. That's not what life's about. Life's about is learning Torah. Right? Grab a Torah and learn something. Right? That's what life is about. Right? Keep your relationship with God. That's all it's about. Right? It's funny. I actually tonight we're having in class the memory of Dr. Harvey Ashman and his widows over here. And so actually, I'll tell you a story that he told me. He was a psychologist, a famous psychologist in town, and he told me, he says, Rabbi, he says, ever since I started living with you, he said, I've cured patients, which is quite unheard of, right? He said, but I've cured patients. I said, really? I said, like, what did you do? So he said, he had this lady come into his office, and she was very disturbed. He said, what happened was, her boss, she felt like her boss was like hounding her, and like was just going ahead and just was like, just making her life like hell. And she came and she says, I need help. She says, I everything I do, I think my boss is out to get me. So he knew it was a religious non-Jewish woman. And he says to her, he says, okay. He says, God is in control of everything. So she says, of course. So he says, well, if God is in control of everything, then God is sending you, your boss, to do this to you. So she said, okay. She says, so every time you see your boss, instead of seeing this person who's about to pound you on the head, think of it as like an angel with little wings and God sending her to send you a message. She said, okay. And that's it. Said she didn't have to come back. She got it. Right? When you learn how to deal with issues in your life, right? When you learn how to put them in perspective and to understand where it comes from and what it's all about, then at that point in time, you need nothing else. Right? And so, but you just have to have the perspective to understand how it works. That's all. That's our job.
Dealing with other people who have no conception, and you have to deal with that. And,
Correct.
And what you're teaching.
Yeah, that's right. So the good news is you're educated, so you get it. That's all. So then you have to just learn how to go ahead and just how to use it right. Okay.
That's the mission of the Jewish people in the world.
Right.
You say God controls everything.
Mm-hmm.
So does that mean that I am part of everything? Does that mean He controls me?
So He gave us one gift that nothing else in the universe has.
Free will.
Free will.
Right. So then.
So He said you could do what you
You're
want.
saying that these people are coming to me. God is giving me a messenger, and He is directing them. But you can't be directed and be.
Aha! Great question. So I will show. Okay, now I'm going to skip to Deuteronomy. Sorry, Parshas Kiseitze. Right, we talked about making a fence for your roof. Okay, right. There's a mitzvah in the Torah that when you build a house, right, you have to put a fence around your roof. Okay, right. Makel legagecha. Right. Why do you have to put a fence around your roof? Very good. So nobody should fall off the roof, right? That's right. If you turn to page, here it is. You turn to page 1051, chapter 22 in Deuteronomy, chapter 22, verse number 8. A very famous verse in the Torah. Okay, chapter 22, verse number 8. Okay, Justin, since you asked the question, you get to read it. Go ahead. What does it say?
If you build a new house, you shall make a fence for your roof, so that you will not place blood in your house if a fallen one falls from it.
Okay, does that verse make sense to you?
You don't have a choice in other people's actions, but you can figure out how to help yourself from them.
Okay, wait. What's the question? What's the question of this verse? Right, this chapter 22, verse number 8. Right? Right? What does the verse state? If you build a new house, you shall make a fence for your roof so that you will not place blood in your house if a fallen one falls from it.
The fallen one was they've already fallen.
Aha! Excellent question. Right? It says if the fallen one fallen, what do you mean fallen one? He didn't fall yet. How is he a fallen one if he hasn't fallen yet? You hear the question? Problem. Ding, 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 ding. Problem. What's the answer? Says the Talmud. You have to require to build a fence around your roof. Why do you have to build a fence around your roof? Because you require to make sure your house is safe. And if people are walking there, that nothing should happen to them. I.e., you build a pit, right, in your front yard where people walk. What do you have to do to that? You have to put a fence around the pit, because otherwise people will fall and hurt themselves. Right? Okay, excellent.
But you can still choose to go over the fence.
You could choose to go around the fence, good. Now here, when you build a fence around the roof, right? You're going to be building the fence around the roof. Around the roof. You did not build a fence around the roof. So you did not do your responsibility. And somebody falls off the roof. So now you're a murderer, you killed somebody. Exactly how much level of murder you have is an interesting question, right? But you certainly have a culpability, you have a hand in that. Right? It's not like you took a gun and shot somebody, but right, there's certainly, right, there's a level of responsibility.
Oh, God controls everything, then He didn't build.
No, you chose not to build a fence. So what happens is, the person who falls, don't think you killed that person and he was not supposed to die. He was already the fallen one. He had to die for a different reason. And all God did was, He brought you and that person together, made a nice little shidduch, right? Nice little match. And he had him walk on your roof, and since you didn't build the fence, he fell off your roof. Right? And so therefore, right, it's not that you altered God's plan, God just brought you two together. And now and now this will truly blow your mind if you actually think about it. But that means that God makes all our interactions that we have with each other, right? All our interactions that we go ahead and that we interact with each other, and we affect each other through our actions. That God makes it that the person who's doing the action, the person receiving the action, are each supposed to be involved in that with that crosses. We're each supposed to be involved in that transaction. And again, and God is managing billions of those intersections every day, every second. Right? And so therefore God makes it that your free will and my free will don't clash. Right? That's how God runs it. Only something only God can do. Right? But that's something that's so amazing how they work together.
I think about that. I didn't understand that.
Okay, we're talking about. Yeah, talking about that. Okay, good. Question. You okay? Alrighty.
God gave me this world. It's a beautiful world.
Yeah.
Why does it make it harder?
The answer is like this.
Why does it throw stones in front of the food all the time?
Aha! The answer is maybe you have to make sure you're going down the right path. You have to make sure you're doing the right thing. And you have to make sure that you're going on the right way.
So you're continuously learning even when incarnation and everything?
Yeah, of course. Life is all about growth. It's all about choices. What choices are we making and what are we doing with those choices? Right? That's what life is about, right? The choices that we're making. Right? And the choices that we're doing. Right? That's really what life's all about. Right? And we have to make sure we're making the right choices. Right? It means when something happens, how do you know whether it's God or it's the evil inclination? So what happens is when something happens, you have to stop and think and reevaluate whether you're doing the right thing or not. And then you go ahead and then once you figure it out, then you continue. If it's the right thing, you say, okay, well, he's just trying to stop me. Then you go ahead and you do that. If it's the wrong thing, you say, okay, forget about it, I'm moving along. Right, but that's what you always have to be stopping and thinking we're doing the right thing. Mati. Okay, good. Okay.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
So we feed our soul with scripture in the Torah.
Right. Torah mitzvahs, right? That's how we feed our soul.
Right.
And
so
that's
what
we
about cholent?
What? Yeah, cholent is a special. It's a spiritual food. Right? But that's how we become happy, right? How do we become happy? We become happy by going ahead and doing, right? And focusing on soul things. Right? That's what it's about. Right? It's going ahead and it's going to make sure that we're doing the right things. Okay? And that's what it's about. And that's really going back to all the way to the beginning, right? So that's really what it is. That's how we become happy. How do we become happy? By making sure we feed our souls, not our bodies. Feeding our bodies are nice, by the way. I'm the steak and potato guy also, okay? But understand, all in the context of why are we eating?
To keep our body alive.
And why we keep our body alive? Why do we want to keep our body alive?
Sustain our soul.
Or we're really not, okay, so one level is just to sustain our soul. One is to help our soul do those mitzvahs. Right? If you're sick and lying in bed and you're so weak as you haven't eaten, you can't put on tefillin in the morning is very hard. You can't run to help the person cross the street. Right? You can't go and do a kindness for somebody else. Right? All those things are things you can't do if you're too weak. You need to, right? But the question is, do you eat to live or do you live to eat? Right? Which one it is? And the Torah says, keep focused. Right? Go ahead and make sure that you're going ahead and that you're living to use it, right? To serve God, right? That's what you're going ahead and you're using. Right? That's what it's about. Right? And so when we understand that to keep that focus, that's what we become great people. These 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, this is what it's all about. Right? It's about going ahead and it's about getting to a place of where we're going ahead and we're serving God. Why? Right? We're saying, God, we might have got caught too much in the physical world. right? I want to go back now and look at my world, at what we've done, right? And now make sure that my priorities are correct, right? That's really what it's all about, and right? That's our goal, right? Okay, so what I want to do right now is when I want to spend the last few minutes of class, I would like to do something about Yom Kippur. Okay, something for Rosh Hashanah, between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I'm giving you a handout here. I'm going to just hand those out. Frankie, let me have one. Okay, this is a little quiz, and then we're going to go over it. So it's going to be quite exciting. Okay, so but right, we're going to help you. Go ahead and go through this quiz. This is taken from the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur Survival Kit by Leviathan Press, put it by Shimon Appelsdorf. Right, it's a great little. It's a great little exercise to do. I find it fascinating to do this. Okay, I want you to look on the left side, on the right side of the page. Okay, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest. Right, how important are the following to you? You cannot have more than 3 5s or 3 4s, and you must have at least 2 3s, 2 2s, and 2 1s. Okay. Here it is, right? Here is the list. Again, you go ahead and you have, right? Number 1 is family. 2 is being well educated. 3 is making a contribution to my community. 4 is marriage. 5 is spirituality. 6 is being well liked. 7 is having a good reputation. 8 is financial success. 9 is being Jewish. 10 is peer recognition in my career or profession. 11 is personal fulfillment. 12 is helping other people. 13, having a good Jewish education. 14, making contribution to humanity. 15, achieving peace of mind. 16, having children. 17, living in the home of my dreams. 18, acquiring self-knowledge. 19, giving my children a strong Jewish identity. Now, just for help over here, because we don't have that much time, the definition of spirituality means having a relationship with God. Okay, very important. Spirituality means having a relationship with God. People kind of go ahead and they make a mistake by they think spirituality is some of this kumbaya kind of just sitting there going humming right, that's spirituality. That's not spirituality. Spirituality. So I don't know what that is. Ain't spirituality. Spirituality is having a relationship with God. Okay, right, and family, and again, since 4 is marriage. When we say family, it means like having, and there's another one for having kids. So family means like brothers, siblings, and parents. Okay? And you need to rank them. 5 being the highest. You cannot have more than 3 5s. You cannot have more than 3 4s. You have to have at least 2 1s, at least 2 2s, and at least 2 3s. Scott, just go in the office. Rabbi Abrams might have some extra pens. Who else needs a pen? Okay, Scott. Just want to.
I've got 3.
Oh, yeah, 3. Okay, good. Okay. Right. So to go ahead and to just rank them 1, 2. Right. Just go ahead and rank them. Okay. Can't have more than 3 5s. Okay. Right.
So just we do the right side.
Yeah, just the right side. Yeah. I mean, this take a lot of time, but here at least we'll start with this over here. Okay.
Thank you.
What do we consider self-knowledge?
So
People self-knowledge, like they like to know about themselves, right? Is that
what Judaism would have me understand about myself? Like about my body and my soul?
No, I would put that. Is that studying Torah there anywhere?
That's okay, I'll figure it out.
Okay. Right. Prior sometimes people say, it's important for me to understand myself, and to understand like where what I like, what I don't like. Yeah. So write it. So just go ahead and write them. This is a very cool. When I've done this a million times already, but when you start doing them, it is so difficult, because really what you have to recognize.
Is there a right answer?
There are some right answers and some wrong answers. But again, a lot of it is a preference, right? So the easiest thing to do, so the way I kind of have the way I approach this, and this is a kind of a way to figure this out, is right, the 2 least important things on the list, you make them a 1. Right?
I'm starting the other way.
Okay, wait, just make the other way. Okay, go ahead. Let's go ahead. So take your time. Right? So there's just a very fascinating.
What if you already have children?
It's irrelevant. It means how important is that to you? Where in this list do you rank that? Right? It's not what I will have. Right? Again, it's so kind of is just it's so fascinating, this exercise. It's really is fantastic. And here's the book, right? The Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur Survival Kit by Shimon Apostolf. I find this book really, really cool. I love the picture actually on the front of it too. Right? It's maybe go ahead and looking at this the picture, I think is says all that need to be said.
So, if, for instance, the question, what are the 3 biggest mistakes I've made since the last Rosh Hashanah?
Oh, you're on the wrong side, Borders. I want you on the other side. Yeah, the other side will take you years to answer. All these questions on the other side are even more scarier than the ones on the right side. I'm starting you off on the right side because these are the easier. Right. So this is right. This is just kind of quite a fascinating, quite fascinating over here. Right. So okay. When you're finishing, if you actually didn't want to go to the left side and start looking at some of those questions will bend your mind like a pretzel. But first, start on the right side, because I think the right side is just an easier easier side to go ahead and to look at. It's really it's fascinating how it
You're not gonna like my answers.
Not a question to liking. Question: do you like your answers? You have to live with your answers. I have to live with my answers.
I know what my preferences are, but I think they're wrong.
That becomes a problem, because then at that point in time you have to figure out. Well, I know what but I know this is what I should be doing, but this is what I am doing.
Right.
Right, and so that's when your life is not living up, when you're not matching your life with your ideals, right? It's miserable.
Yeah.
Right, and that disconnect is terrible, right? Because at that point in time, it creates a lot of strife, right? Because at that point in time, I'm not doing what I should be doing, right? And then if I'm not doing what I should be doing, then it becomes, at that point in time, becomes a very scary proposition, right? It really goes and puts us into a place of just big trouble, right? We just go ahead and we get to a place of that thing is that life is, we get ourselves in big trouble, right? Because then that's when we get real miserable, right? So if we look at it and how life is and what it's all about, right? Then at that point in time, I'm at least able to maybe see if I can put some things back in the right side. Here come no peeking. I know everyone to.
I don't even know what I am.
Yeah, it's a scary. It's a scary. It's a.
Where's yours?
What?
Where's yours?
Oh, I have it. I've done it. Now I'm gonna tell you what the right ones are. So don't worry about it. You hang in there. And,
The right ones are. I don't know what yours are.
Well, I will try to help you on that. I'll try to get you onto the right one.
How many Shabbat we have in the year?
Shabbats are 52.
52, right?
52 Shabbats. Well, it depends, right? Because right, it's right. Okay, so just by a show of hands, who has finished? I'm impressed that people have finished so quick, because it took me a long time to finish this. And
Well, you don't give us enough fives.
right, that's the problem, right?
Right.
Right. It doesn't give you enough fives. Well, first, make sure you got the right fives. Because what happens is you have to imagine you have to get rid of the fives that you, again, let's say I said you could only have 3 of these things. What would be the 3 things that you pick?
Those are easy.
Right? Oh, yeah?
Those are easy.
Really?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
It was the threes and 4s that were.
You're the top. Okay, to me, the top 3 are very hard. See, the bottom 2 were easy.
Well, yeah, I guess the bottom were easy too.
Man, it's fascinating because the bottom I think will have more consensus, right? Because everyone look at this list. Most people that look at this list will know what we're dumping, right? If we had to dump 2 of these, right? If I gave you these as 19 cards, right? You had these as 19 cards, right? What would be the 19 that you would pick, right? What would you have to give up 2 of them? What would be the 2 you get rid of, right? I think we could figure out what the 2 we could get rid of. And then the problem becomes, well, what happens if we spend most of our life worrying about the things we get rid of? Oh, welcome to the world. Welcome to the world, my friends. Now you know what life is really all about. And so all the lovely choices that we're making or that we're not making, or the poor choices what we're choosing to do, that becomes the real challenge. So it's fascinating. Yeah.
We have the Torah.
Right.
We have the Torah. So even if we don't know what should be important, we believe that God told us and it's in the book.
Right. We know it. Right.
Right.
And then it becomes a question. Okay, so we're ready to live our lives based on that formula.
Right. Which takes some. Not there yet.
Right. No, but there's a difference between at least knowing where I want to get to rather than where I'm at.
Sure.
Man, and that becomes a question then. Okay, could I at least get to where I want to get to? Right? You know what I'm saying? I know these at least are my goals, and that's what Yom Kippur is about. This time of year, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is really meant as a time for us to go ahead and for us to focus on what are my real goals, and what are the important goals, right? And so then at that point in time, right, then it becomes just this kind of easier at that point in time. And so it's a fascinating thing to look at and to really see how what it's all about. Jenny, you done? Scott, you done? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's start off. Okay, we only have around 15 minutes left, so let's start that. Okay, number 1. Let's start. Give me. Anyone want to give me their ones? Okay, right. Their ones, right. What are the 2? If you had to throw away 2 of these things.
17.
What? 17. Living the home of my dreams. Good. 14. Okay. 14. Okay, making a contribution to humanity. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, humanity, you're going to have to live without me. Number 8, financial success. Okay.
10.
6.
What?
10.
10, peer recognition in my career or profession. Peer recognition in my career, right? 10. And what did you say? What else was that after 10?
6.
6, being well liked. Okay. Those would probably be, so this is pretty much, sorry Scott, would be my 1s and my 2s.
I'm honest.
No. Honesty is the best thing. Now, isn't it fascinating? It's fascinating. I would tell you, right? I think most people probably would, right? Living the home of my dreams and financial success would probably be our 1s and our 2s. Yet, isn't it amazing how we spend 98% of our life trying to get there?
That one was a 3 for me.
Yeah.
I break down 1 to 1. For me, that's the last thing.
Right, the last thing, right?
Right.
And yet people spend so much time going ahead and doing that stuff. It's just amazing. Right? I find it truly amazing. Because I think most of us would pick it when push comes to shove. Okay, we'd rather have kids who live in the home of your dream. And so most people say, my kids, not a question. Okay, so the ones are easy, ones are twos, but that's just interesting. And yeah.
The sad part is that this is my.
Go ahead.
90% of people judge you with what you have.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that sad? When in America, when you see someone go by and say, there goes a successful person, what does that mean?
Big car and wealthy.
Big car, nice house, wealthy. Right? And in Judaism says, Yon, who made you rich? God.
Right.
Okay, so what does a successful person mean when a person wants to go, there goes a successful person? What does that mean in Judaism?
Observant.
It means somebody, right, who's serving God. Right? It means somebody, who's being godly. Right? Bringing godliness into the world. And then we have two different criteria. Right? We have two totally different world outlooks.
And the funny part is that, you work hard, you make it. At the end of this day, just leave it behind and go.
I want to show you the greatest dichotomy is on Yom Kippur. The greatest dichotomy in these two things. What is the pinnacle in America?
Fancy car, big house.
Super Bowl.
No.
Right? No, Super Bowl. No. I'm saying, who are our heroes, right? Going and taking something in the right, a Super Bowl, a rock star, right? A performer, right? Who the whole world watches, right? All eyes upon them. What is on Yom Kippur? Holiest day of the Jewish year. Almost holiest day. Shabbos is holier than Yom Kippur. But okay, put Yom Kippur. What's the holiest moments on Yom Kippur?
Fasting and...
In the temple times, what's the holiest moment of the year? Answer is the high priest going inside the Holy of Holies. One time a year, the high priest is allowed into the Holy of Holies. Right? Okay? One time a year. And the high priest can go inside the Holy of Holies. Okay? One time a year. If he goes in any times, what happens to him? Dies. What happens if he's not prepared when he goes into the Holy of Holies? Dies. What if there's something wrong when he's in the Holy of Holies? Dies. Stakes are high. And if he does it right, what happens to the Jewish people? We get forgiven. Pretty cool. How many people see the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, in the Holy of Holies? 0. 0. What do you mean? It's the holiest holy. It's the holiest time of the year. It's the holiest place of the year. And here comes the high priest into there. Why isn't anybody looking at him? Why can't we see what he's doing? Put a little body cam on, and turn the security camera around so we can see what's going on. Why not? Because when the Kohen Gadol, the high priest, goes into the Holy of Holies, the most holiest time in the Jewish year, if anyone would be seeing, it would detract from its holiness. The more holy something is, the more private it is. When I throw out Abraham, Isaac, what's the greatest, the pinnacle of Abraham and Isaac? The binding of Isaac, right? When Abraham takes Isaac and sticks him on the altar and he's ready to offer him up to God. How many people saw him?
0.
Nobody. 0. What about the 2 people that came with them?
They stayed waiting.
They stayed waiting. Isn't that amazing? The holiest time in the year, and nobody can see what's going on. The holiest place. In Judaism, the more holy something is, the more private it is. In our world, the greater something is, the more people that can see it. Right? It's a total dichotomy. It's total contradiction, two ends of the world. And then we're in two ends of the world. Right? It's an amazing thing. Right? You know why? Because when you're alone with God, what you will do, right? The action you will take is what's important. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. All other people around, all that does, it goes ahead and it just creates a lot of chatter, right? A lot of smoke, a lot of fuzz. Remember the olden day TVs? You know, that white little fuzz on the TV. Right? Remember those things? Remember when your HD freezes up for a minute and the whole screen goes like that? That's okay, a modern day example of that. Okay? Right? That's what happens. I mean, bang, it's all over. It doesn't matter what other people think. It matters what God thinks. What this world is about. Okay, let's go to our fives. This is where we're going to have some fun. Does anyone want to tell me their top 3 fives?
I want to tell you my top 3 fives.
You do or you don't?
I do.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
Marriage, spirituality, and peace of mind.
Okay. Marriage, spirituality, peace of mind. Okay, good. Anyone else have any fives?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Family, marriage, and spirituality.
Where does being Jewish?
But
what about being Jewish?
I got.
You got 4.
Yeah, I got.
You got 4 fives.
Yeah, being Jewish.
Oh, okay, Frank. You got to get rid of one.
Okay, I get rid.
Which one are you getting rid of?
I get rid of. Oh no, family.
Oh, Rabbi, don't do this to me! Oh, who'd I throw away?
Doesn't spirituality supersede being Jewish, though?
Well, very interesting. Let me ask you a question. That's a great question. That was going to be my question to you. Let me answer the question. Being Jewish, let me ask you, spirituality, connection to God. Okay? Non-Jews. Could they have a connection with God?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Could they get a relationship like a Jew has? No.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because
Idol
the,
worship.
what?
Idol
No. Listen, no. They're wonderful people. They keep the 7 Noahide laws. Might do because they've got only 7 laws to keep. Jews have 613 commandments. And the more commandments you have, right? No pain, no gain. You ever heard that statement? Right? No, my personal trainer keeps reminding me that of, right? No pain, no gain.
But you could not be a Jew and live by those laws, and you can be a Jew and not live by those laws.
Excellent.
And what does it matter?
No. So hold on. Okay, so let's first look at the fun case where everyone does what they're supposed to do. A Jew keeping 613 commandments and a non-Jew keeping 7 commandments. Did they both go through the same amount of working that they have to do? No. So they both going to get the same place? No. Okay.
That's the ideal scenario.
Right, that's ideal. No, let's start off with the ideal scenario. I always try to look at things that my glasses are rose-colored. We like looking at happy things. Same with this what they're doing. So therefore, spirituality is great. But now becomes a question, well, being Jewish, versus just plain spirituality.
So why do they make them separate?
No, very good, because of your question. Because, let's say, so being Jewish and spirituality are my fives, 2 of my fives. Right, then the third one, it's very hard to figure out which one to pick. Right, okay, what the third one,
But you're saying that being Jewish should imply spirituality, so...
No. That's why you need to put both there. You need to put being Jewish and spirituality. There's a question in Jewish Kabbalah. Let's say a person is Jewish but isn't religious.
What does that mean?
Right?
What does that even mean?
It means they're Jewish, they're born to a Jewish mother, but they don't keep the commandments.
Okay.
Are they better off than a non-Jew who keeps all 7 commandments? So that's an interesting question. Okay, that's an interesting question. So that's why you need both. That's why to me you need both with number 5. And the question really becomes, because if I get really mean, what I'll make you do is I'll tell you, take your 3 5s and throw away 2. And you can only be left with 1 out of this list. What one thing on this list would you pick?
Yeah.
Right? It's a tough question.
Well, the top 2 would, in my opinion, would be spirituality and being Jewish.
Right, correct. And now throw away 1.
Right.
I got 2 left.
I would choose spirituality over.
So that's a great question, and I don't have a clear answer. And to me, it's not clear which one is. The question is really which one is greater. See, because I could really. Well, it is. It's a fascinating. And if you would have been at my house on Shabbat, this past Shabbat, we had a great conversation where we talked about the 3 cardinal sins: idolatry, adultery, and murder. I said rank them. I said which one's the worst, which one's second to worst, which one's the third worst, and I said and bring a proof. Right? It's a fascinating discussion, right? Because and really, and these discussions are good because they force you to start thinking, right? What's 1, what's 2, what's 3, right? It's to start ranking your priorities. And before Yom Kippur, right, this time between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, it's so important to rank your priorities to understand what it's all about, right? And then you can see, am I living my life based on my priorities or am I not? And then at that point in time, then I have to go figure out, okay, if I'm not, do I want to? And if I want to, then how do I? And hopefully the answer is yes. And then how do I get there? Right? But the first thing is understanding our priorities. What is the rank? How do we rank our priorities? Right, and that's why, right. So that's really why. So that's why the 5s, right? Means I told you can only pick 2 things out of this entire list, right? And then it doesn't, and all these things because eventually what I did was I did 3 5s, 3 4s, right? So I got 6, I got 2 1s and 2 2s, right? So I got 10. So then in 19, so I had 9 3s. But that's a cop out because now I'll just say, okay, rank your 3s. You know what I'm saying? Like rank your 3s where your 3s are. Right, but the first thing you got to understand is what are the most important thing in this list. Right, what's the most important thing in this list? You have to pick them, and if you throw 1 away, what do you throw away? And if you throw 2 away, 3 away, 4 away, right, or you have 19 cards, pick them up, right, and what becomes the most important things, right, and that really then forces us to stop and to think. We're coming into Yom Kippur, okay, so now. Okay, so if I've done something wrong, I now need to go ahead and now need to say to God, well, okay, so now how do I go back and how do I correct that? Or how do I go ahead and do those right things? And it forces us to live in a world of right and wrong, right, and making right choices. And learning to make those right choices is really what at the end of the day, as human beings, we're here, we have free will. And we are our choices, right? The choices we make defines who we are. And so then understanding how to make those right choices, right, and to do the right things, that's what life's about. And getting to that place of where what's right and what's wrong, that's what life's about. Is that about the question?
No, he raised it also.
Okay.
All of it is spirituality. You have to be Jewish for spirituality.
No, we said spirituality is a relationship with God. Except somebody who is a non-Jew.
To say something about
no. That was a question. That was a question. Who's greater, a non-Jew who keeps all the 7 Noahide laws, or a Jew who even doesn't keep anything but he's Jewish? Right? Right? So which one is greater? Like I said, that's the question, right? Well, so being a Jew is something that is so phenomenal and so incredible that it trumps everything. Everybody said, I said, it's not clear in my mind. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. Being a Jew will trump over because remember that in the Torah, I think is Deuteronomy 17, and say, "I teach you with my Am Segula, my holy nation. You become a treasure possession, right? And then so you."
Exodus 19.
Yeah, Exodus 19. Okay, and that the big responsibility there for Jews that time was to make this a world, a godly place.
To make the world a godly place, right?
Okay, so if you Jews, and then without the the connection with God, so I think I would say, if I'm not mistaken, I would say a lost Jews, but you're still Jews. But you're not fulfilling.
Right. No, but the question is just what is greater, being Jewish or spiritual? But that clearly to me is the number 1, 2 in my fives, and those are certainly two of my fives, right? And then becomes okay. Then a person starts looking at the other stuff. What are the important stuff? Marriage, family, children, right? Give my children Jewish education, right? Yeah. What? Right? Yeah.
The life of the Jew is always hard.
No, it's not hard. It's amazing.
I like that.
But in the history of humankind has been always difficult.
No, I don't. You make a mistake. You see, you're looking at the world as being the glass being half full. See, the world is all about going ahead and understanding why am I here in this world? What's my job in this world? It's creating a relationship with God.
No, but I wanted to make a statement.
Okay. Go ahead.
The way I look at the difference between Jew and non-Jew is that it could be very hard for us, but we also have a higher responsibility.
Absolutely.
For this world.
Absolutely.
That's what we're here.
100%. When we say that we're a chosen people, right, it doesn't mean no, right? We're chosen and you're not, right? You see, just the way we look at the world. How does a Jew look at this world? It's always about duties, right? Rights versus responsibilities. The more you have, the more you're responsible to do. The less you have, the less you're responsible to do. Okay, you're following, right? Right? The millionaire has much more responsibility, right, to other people, right, money-wise, than the person who doesn't, right? Because that's his responsibilities. In America, we look at the world, what's my right? I have the right for this, and I have the right for that. I have the right for this, I have the right for that. It's my right, right? And now what happens if we two have rights, and we're clashing over who's right trumps who's right, right? That's a mistake. Judaism doesn't look at the world. You don't have rights. You have responsibilities, right? You got things you got to do, right? It's in your own personal life. It's vis-a-vis other people. It's vis-a-vis the world. God chose from all the other people to be His people. You know what that means? We got a heck of a lot of responsibilities, right?
And that's why we have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and all those holidays, because we are responsible and we want to keep it going.
And we have to take an accounting of our responsibility, right? And I'll show you how far this goes. Listen to how far this goes. This is a crazy thing. On Yom Kippur, we're going to say, right, God, please forgive me for I have done this and I have done that, right? You go through the whole list. It's a nice laundry list, right? 44 things. We go ahead and we tell you what you've done, right? If anyone has the time before Rosh Hashanah, before Yom Kippur, go to ish.com, right? They actually they've broken down all these 44 things, and it's gone and given you breakdowns of what falls underneath this. At the end of the article, Master, it also has in the back, it has more information. But you say, for we have done this, we have done that. You look at the list, and most of the list we're guilty of, but there's a few that we didn't do. So should we skip those few that we didn't do? We didn't do them. So let's just skip it.
Someone else did.
Okay, so why are we
We're not individual as Jews, collective.
Okay, more than that. Do I have a responsibility towards somebody else? And maybe that person did what they did because I didn't teach them the right thing to do. And so now I got to start. Right? I did this and I did that and I did this and I did that. I did everything on the list.
But we do it as a nation. We do it as a personal.
And we do it as both. It was my responsibility as a people because maybe I could have stopped somebody and I didn't. I could have inspired somebody to do the right thing and I didn't inspire them. Right? So it's amazing stuff that we do.
If I go around out there and have a pork sandwich, you will punish yourself.
And if I could have stopped you. So next time, tell me you're gonna do it. I'll bring my AK-47. We'll stop that. It'll be fine. No. But my job is to try to inspire you not to do it. And if I try and it doesn't work, then guess what?
Hashem will judge you.
No, I'm exempt from. I've done my job.
Right.
Right, but I have to try. Right, I have to do what I got to do. Right, that's my responsibility.
Like building a fence around the top of your house.
Yeah, right, exactly. If I build a fence, I've done my job. And then after that, it's, right, that's in God's hands.
So if you invite the people to come to Torah class and they don't want to, so we try, right?
So we tried, right? So we got to do it in a way. But I tell you, there's trying and there's trying. There's a great story. There was once there was a Jewish guy who owned a nursing home. Jews in nursing homes, they go together. Had 850 beds in his nursing home, and there was 3 Jews in the entire nursing home. So he fed non-kosher to all the other patients in the nursing home. And he couldn't, in the 3 Jews, he fed kosher food. He ordered them from the restaurant, kosher food, every meal they had a restaurant meal. One day, one of the old ladies there, she says, who's Jewish, she goes, I want the same food as everybody else. She said, the same food as everybody else. I said, I'm paying like $1 for that food. I'm ordering you $20 a meal. Your food is so much better. She says, nope, I just want what everyone else is eating. So he goes ahead, and he goes to his rabbi, says, what do I do? His rabbi says, well, you got to feed her kosher. You can't feed her non-kosher. You have to feed everybody else kosher too. I just feed everyone else kosher. He said, my food cost is going to go through the roof. It's going to put me out of business. The rabbi said, okay, what can I do? You can't feed a non-Jew, non-kosher. Rabbi doesn't hear from him. A few months later, he bumps into the guy and he says, what happened? He says, oh, that lady became religious. He says, how did that happen? He said, Rabbi, I had no choice. I had to convince her to become religious. Right? If we look at our fellow Jews and understand that we have no choice, right? It's a different way of working on it. They just, I invited them. I stuck it out on Facebook. Okay, they all saw it. Okay, I'm exempt. Whew. Okay, those 1,500 Jews off my list. Right? Okay, folks. We're gonna just a quick announcement. Tomorrow, that is having a special charity campaign. That any money given between 11 a.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, and 11 a.m. on Wednesday will be matched 4 times, quadruple. Give $1,000, data gets $4,000. You give $10,000, data gets $40,000. You give $100, data gets $400. So that's all happening tomorrow. All happening tomorrow, starting at 11 o'clock. So, and if you see it online, if you would not mind sharing with your friends, this way we can continue doing all our wonderful work that Data does. Everyone have a wonderful, happy, have a chasima tova, a gemar chasima tova, a good sealing, and may we all have a wonderful, meaningful Yom Kippur.
Thank you.